I remember a time myself and the team made very solid decisions about an animal we had rescued, hand raised, and released in the wild. Became aggressive like any other black rhino. But one time she was caught in a snare. And it was at night, so you can't immobilize at night. And you can't do anything. And we knew if we left her at night, she would die. The tension that it's only occur between you and the animal. We had to put a Land Cruiser between her and ourselves, and the snare had to be taken by somebody underneath the Land Cruiser. So you can imagine where and how far the keys to the Land Cruiser had to be kept, so that not a single driver would want to drive off with somebody underneath the car. Ol Pejeta is in Laikipia, one of the 47 counties in Kenya, and is located in between the Aberdares and Mount Kenya. Ol Pejeta is very critical to the survival of the black rhinos, particularly the Eastern African black rhino, which is a subspecies of the black rhino. And it is as such because we have the largest breeding population in East and Central Africa. The black rhino is classified under the IUCN as critically endangered. And actually the drivers of loss for the black rhino are sort of the same across Africa. And in Kenya in particular, the years between 1970, 60, 70, we had about 20,000 strong. But by the close of 1980s, 1990, we had less than 400 left, which represents a 98% decline. So you can imagine 20,000 to 400. And that was actually as a result of almost industrial scale kind of hunting and poaching. I think the biggest fallacy that has existed and that driven the population downwards is the fact that it has medicinal value in it. There is no medicine in it. There's no value in that. And we know very well that the rhino horn is made of keratin. It's basically like your hairs bunched together, fingernails, and so on and so forth. And so around about 1989 is when the government made the decision to consolidate this population to enhance its breeding performance and protection, to curb the wanton killing and hunting and poaching. And actually that was the turnaround for rhino conservation in Kenya.
At the moment, we have got 9 dogs. They are just for rhino protection. We treat them as a puppy. When they are 3 months old, we start introducing them how to track. Rhino population here in Ol Pejeta is increasing because of the help of our dogs. Because once you hear any gunshot within Ol Pejeta, our state-by team is ready with the canine team to go where the incident has happened, and we have been most of the time we have been successful with our mission because of the help of our dog.
The recovery program for the northern white rhino was highly hinged or dependent on the fact that Nine and Fatu were going to reproduce naturally. They were brought to Kenya for the purposes of recovering the species. Unfortunately, there were issues to do with their reproductive parts. And then, of course, Nine also had issues with her hind legs, could not carry pregnancy to full term. But the real blow came when the younger of the 2 males died naturally back in the year 2014. And then we were left with Sudan, who was by that time almost actually probably slightly past 40, which means it was too old and so could not naturally mate with the 2 females. So that meant that actually, as much as Sudan was available, it was almost the end of the species.
For Sudan, I was the main caretaker of him. He started feeling a lot of pain, and we tried as much as we could to do medication on him, but he didn't respond well.
Sudan had arthritis, and we instituted treatment for that arthritis up to the point where could not allow him to walk anymore, and we made the decision to euthanize him, put him to sleep.
It was really a sad news by the time when he was euthanized. It really shook the whole world and we all grieved. He was so friend to many people worldwide.
And so the death of Sudan also, who had become part of our lives, part of the caregivers' lives on a day-to-day basis, was symbolic of many things. The end of the line for that particular species, it was quite emotional, emotive.
And it gave us an opportunity for some reflections on what really we need to do as a society in as far as protecting wildlife is concerned. Do we need to allow another species, for example the black rhino, to also undergo the same kind of thing?
Ol Pejeta is fenced. It's got 120 kilometers of solar-powered electric fence. One of the things that I think is critical for us as Ol Pejeta is to ensure that the reciting intervals of the rhinos is very high. We need to see every rhino within a space of 3 to 4 days.
So what we are doing here is just a bit of brief, and we'll get from the commander in charge to deploy us in various locations tonight. Yeah. Others will be south, north, west, in various locations. But me and my comrade over there will go to the northern white bomber. Yes, enclosure, that is. Yeah. It's we who are protecting the only two standing northern white rhinos. So it's kind of a privilege. We watch them from a distance to make sure that we don't interfere. We are one fraternity, to make sure that we advocate, we are the voice for the voiceless animals, to make sure that our animals and vegetation, they're in good.
I think generally the Conservancy benefits quite a lot as a result of choosing the black rhino as the flagship species. The intensity of monitoring also benefits other wildlife, because these rangers, as much as they are deployed to protect rhinos, they are equally monitoring and managing other populations of wildlife. We have recovery program not only for the rhinos, such as the northern white rhino recovery program or the black rhino recovery program, but we have other species that are equally endangered. It's important actually not to operate in isolation, but rather in unison. You can actually undertake other commercial or other activities that are geared towards revenue generation for the purposes of redeployment in community development or conservation without necessarily harming the system. And by so doing, you become relevant both to the system, to the government, and to the communities. Majority of the workforce that we have in the Conservancy come from the local communities. So they are our suppliers. But at the same time also, we recognize that any breach of fence by some of these rogue wildlife, a few individuals among them, causes human-wildlife conflict. And so sometimes our existence is also a threat to their livelihood. So you realize that then we've got to work closely with them to ensure that any breach of fence, for example, does not damage. When we are working together, we are stronger. We are both a learning point. We are an education center, creating awareness of the plight facing some of the species, the need to conserve environment. We are also a leisure destination. We have accommodation facilities here on Ol Pejeta, vibrant and very nice. We have species that can only be said to be unique to this country. We host a chimp sanctuary, and we are the only ones in Kenya that have such a facility. We hold the largest Boran genetics, which is a very special hardy type of cattle that is able to utilize very rank grass and convert that to beef efficiently. We are attractive to the government because, unlike most other conservation areas, we are still also chipping in both to food security from wheat farming as well as taxes. There is a passion and a form of relationship that develops between the caregivers, caretakers, protection teams of the rhino and other species that is, as I said, beyond just salary. Because when you look at what it takes sometimes to protect them, there's there's a little bit of an extra thing that you have to do than the call of duty.
Lola, 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 Lola.
The first thing we did was to call out their name, and the ears pricked, and I knew we've got her. And we used one of our favorite delicacies back then, which is lucerne. We beat it downwind so she could smell it, and suddenly her behavior changed. It's on a lot of relying on your hunch and teamwork and coordination, and I believe we saved her life. You can support the conservation work of black rhinos and all species Ol Pejeta works to protect in the following ways. Come join us and visit Ol Pejeta Conservancy, where you can view the largest population of the endangered black rhinos in Africa, the last 2 northern white rhinos, along with the big 5. We are open all year round with daily game drives, restaurants, and overnight stays. You can also support us with a donation and help us ensure no other species are lost forever.